The 1996 Otokoto Riots serve as a poignant illustration of the tensions simmering beneath the surface in societies grappling with corruption and systemic inequality. The term Otokoto Riots refers to a series of spontaneous protests and looting events that erupted in Owerri, a city in Imo State, Nigeria. These disturbances unfolded over 2 days in September 1996 and were ignited by a particularly brutal and tragic event: the kidnapping and murder of an 11-year-old boy named Anthony Ikechukwu Okoronkwo. His death became the spark that lit a powder keg of accumulated public frustration. The significance of the Otokoto Riots within a larger discussion about social discontent cannot be overstated. While the immediate trigger was a horrific crime, the underlying causes of the unrest were deeply rooted in pervasive corruption and inequality. Such societal issues are not confined to Owerri or Nigeria. They are universal problems that resonate with audiences worldwide. The riots underscore how deeply embedded corruption and lack of accountability can lead to civil unrest, offering a warning for societies globally. To illustrate this point, consider the arrest of Vincent Duru, the owner of the hotel linked to the crime. His arrest served as a pivotal moment that exposed a network of criminal activity involving human ritualistic killings. This revelation fueled public outrage and propelled the situation from a localized tragedy to a catalyst for widespread civil unrest. Additionally, the unrest showcased the power of collective action against perceived injustice, as thousands of Owerri residents took to the streets to demand justice, highlighting the role of public pressure in confronting corruption. Opinion pieces and analyses from that period often highlight the Otokoto Riots as a manifestation of pent-up frustrations among citizens who felt marginalized and powerless against a backdrop of political and economic disparity. However, the riots were not without controversy. Critics argue that the response, marked by looting and destruction of property, only exacerbated the city's challenges and diverted attention from the need for structured and systemic reforms. Others contend that such unrest is a necessary disruption that can drive change. The Otokoto Riots exemplify how localized events can resonate with broader socio-economic issues, thereby influencing public discourse on governance and accountability. They highlight the essential conversation around inequality and illustrate the dire consequences of ignoring these societal pressures. Understanding these riots is crucial for comprehending the dynamics of civil unrest and the continuous struggle against corrupt systems. The Otokoto Riots of 1996, occurring in Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria, stand as a poignant example of how a singular event, in this case, the horrifying kidnapping and murder of 11-year-old Anthony Ikechukwu Okoronkwo, can catalyze widespread social unrest. At its core, this incident revealed deep-seated issues of corruption and socio-economic inequality that plagued the region. The riots were not merely about the immediate tragedy, but rather they underscored the community's long-standing frustrations with systemic corruption and the lack of accountability within power structures. The significance of this event is multifaceted. Firstly, it highlights the volatile intersection of crime and socio-political environments where public trust in authorities is tenuous. The arrest of Vincent Duru, a hotel owner, became a focal point, symbolizing the perceived impunity of the elite and their exploitation of societal inequalities. This connection between crime, power, and justice systems is crucial to understanding the broader implications of the Otokoto riots, marking a turning point for public discourse on justice and governance in Nigeria. Real-world examples illustrating the impact of such events include the role of media in exposing corruption, subsequently mobilizing public action. For instance, investigative journalism in Nigeria around similar cases has often revealed systemic issues that lead to agitation. Additionally, the #EndSARS protests in Nigeria underline how public response to perceived injustices can prompt governmental and social scrutiny, compelling authorities to address grievances previously ignored. Supportive opinions suggest that events like the Otokoto riots can act as catalysts for positive change, forcing governments to reckon with corruption and implement necessary reforms. However, challenges and controversies abound, notably the potential for such protests to devolve into violence and looting, detracting from their original intent. Critics may argue that these riots expose vulnerabilities in societal structures without providing concrete solutions, further complicating the socio-political landscape. This focal point connects intricately to broader narratives in true crime storytelling on platforms like YouTube, where audiences are drawn not merely to sensational aspects, but to the deeper societal implications. For faceless YouTube channels, portraying such events involves navigating the complexities of factual representation while weaving compelling narratives that respect the nuances of the underlying issues. Consequently, the Otokoto riots illustrate an intersection of tragedy, justice, and societal awakening, providing rich material for storytelling that informs and engages, ultimately fostering a dialogue about systemic change and accountability. The background of the Otokoto events delves into the societal conditions and incidents leading up to the 1996 Otokoto riots in Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria. At its core, this concept involves understanding the socio-political climate of Owerri during the 1990s, marked by widespread corruption, inequality, and economic hardship, which fueled public discontent. The Otokoto events were not isolated incidents, but rather a manifestation of long-standing grievances against systemic corruption and the elite's perceived impunity. The significance of this point lies in its ability to unravel the underlying causes that led to the explosive nature of the riots. By examining the backdrop of these events, we better comprehend the eruption of public anger and the societal thirst for justice that followed. It's crucial to understand that the kidnapping and murder of young Anthony Ikechukwu Okoronkwo were merely the tipping point for an already simmering population. For instance, prior to the riots, Imo State had been plagued by rumors and allegations of ritualistic killings, often linked to influential figures who appeared untouchable by law enforcement. Another example is the economic disparity exacerbating tensions, as the majority of the populace struggled with poverty, while a select few, often associated with corrupt practices, visibly prospered. These conditions cultivated an atmosphere ripe for unrest upon the revelation of such a heinous crime involving a rumored ritualistic angle. Supporters of this perspective argue that understanding the broader context is crucial. They contend that addressing such socio-political inequities is necessary to prevent future unrest, pointing to the Otokoto riots as a stark reminder of what happens when systemic issues are ignored. However, challenges to this viewpoint suggest that focusing too much on societal conditions might obscure individual accountability for the crimes involved. Critics argue that every society has inequalities, yet not all suffer riots of this magnitude, emphasizing the need for balanced narratives. This background intimately connects to the main topic by setting the stage for the civil unrest that ensued, demonstrating how deep-seated societal issues can ignite widespread disorder. It influences other aspects of the Otokoto story by offering insights into why the public felt compelled to take matters into their own hands, reflecting broader themes of justice, retribution, and the breaking point of oppressed communities. Understanding this context is vital for crafting a compelling true crime narrative that goes beyond the sensationalist aspects to explore the very fabric of the society in which these events unfolded. The heading introduces the 1996 Otokoto Riots, a significant event characterized by civil unrest in Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria. This upheaval was sparked by the horrific kidnapping and murder of 11-year-old Anthony Ikechukwu Okoronkwo, which served as a catalyst exposing the underlying societal issues of corruption and inequality rampant in Nigeria at the time. Vincent Duru's arrest, a notable hotel owner implicated in the crime, became the focal point of public outrage, emphasizing the involvement of influential figures in criminal activities. The significance of the Otokoto riots lies in its reflection of the deep-seated frustrations of the Nigerian populace towards systemic corruption and socio-economic disparities. This event underscored the lack of trust in authorities, as people believed that those in power were complicit in perpetuating injustices. The riots became a symbol of the community's demand for accountability and justice, highlighting the extent to which ordinary citizens were willing to go to voice their grievances against corrupt practices. A pertinent example illustrating this point is the broader impact of the riots on the governance and law enforcement strategies in Nigeria. Post-riots, there was an intense public demand for reforms and greater transparency in legal proceedings involving high-profile cases. Additionally, the media played a crucial role in sharing the narratives of victims and protesters, further amplifying calls for change. Opinions supporting this idea often emphasize the necessity of addressing systemic corruption to restore public confidence. Many activists regard the riots as a pivotal moment in Nigerian history that brought attention to the urgent need for reform in policy-making and law enforcement institutions. However, challenges and controversies arise in considering the immediate and long-term consequences of such violent protests. Critics argue that while the riots temporarily accentuated societal issues, they also led to violence and destruction, which diverted attention from peaceful and constructive approaches to change. The 1996 Otokoto riots influence other aspects of true crime storytelling by illustrating how deeply personal tragedies can transform into broader social movements. This connection showcases how acts of violence and crime not only affect individuals and families, but can also trigger widespread societal reactions that demand change. In essence, exploring the narrative of the Otokoto riots within a true crime framework unveils not just the details of the crime itself, but also the layered societal dynamics it exposed, contributing to a larger discourse on justice, accountability, and reform.